happening right now, and it is a battle to watch. Multiple states and some U.S. cities suing the President of the United States over his executive order ending something called birthright citizenship.
Imagine being born in the United States, holding a birth certificate in your tiny hands, well, figuratively, and still being told you might not be an American citizen. That's the reality that tens of thousands of families feared when President Donald Trump signed an executive order on his first day back in office to end birthright citizenship for certain children born in the U.S. The move sparked immediate legal battles, emergency Supreme Court hearings, and a national debate over the 14th Amendment. Months later, the situation is as complicated as ever. So where does it stand now, and what happens next? Let's unpack the story. The executive order that shook the nation on January 20th, 2025. Just hours after his second inauguration, President Trump signed an executive order titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. It called for government agencies to stop recognizing U.S. citizenship for babies born to parents who were undocumented or on temporary visas at the time of birth. The order applied to births occurring 30 days after it was signed and beyond. The legal basis? A controversial interpretation of the 14th Amendment, an interpretation that many constitutional scholars, advocacy groups, and politicians immediately challenged. Within 24 hours, lawsuits poured in from immigrant rights organizations, pregnant women, states, and cities. The first legal counterattack, one of the first and most prominent cases, was NHICSV. Donald J. Trump, filed by the American Civil Liberties Union and partners just hours after the order was issued. Within days, federal judges in different states issued universal injunctions, legal orders stopping the executive order from taking effect anywhere in the country. By mid-February, 3 nationwide injunctions and 1 narrower, group-specific injunction were in place. This meant that for the time being, the children who might have been affected were still recognized as U.S. citizens at birth. The Supreme Court steps in. The Trump administration quickly pushed the fight to the Supreme Court, but here's the twist. They didn't initially argue about whether birthright citizenship itself was constitutional. Instead, they challenged the power of lower courts to issue universal injunctions in the first place. On May 15, 2025, in a rare special session, the court heard arguments in Trump v. CASA Incorporated, and on June 27th, the justices ruled 6-3 to limit the use of universal injunctions. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote for the majority, suggesting these sweeping orders often exceed a judge's authority. However, the court left the door open for class-based injunctions, which can still apply nationwide, just through a different legal route. The birth of a new strategy, almost immediately after the Supreme Court's ruling, advocacy groups adjusted their approach. On the same day the decision came down, the ACLU filed a new class action lawsuit, Barbara v. Donald J. Trump. Rather than relying on universal injunctions, they asked the court to recognize a legal class made up of all children born in the U.S. to parents who are undocumented or have temporary status. This approach meant the injunction would still protect everyone in that class, effectively covering the whole nation. On July 10th, U.S. District Judge Joseph LaPlante certified the class and issued a new class-based nationwide injunction blocking the executive order. This was a significant legal pivot, and it worked. What this means right now? As of today, birthright citizenship is still intact. Every child born on U.S. soil to parents in the affected groups is currently protected by the Barbara injunction. The Trump administration was given 7 days to appeal or request an emergency stay of that injunction. They did neither, letting the deadline pass. This means there's no immediate threat of the executive order taking effect, even though the legal battles over its constitutionality are far from over. The bigger legal picture, it's important to note, the Supreme Court's CASA decision did not address whether the 14th Amendment protects birthright citizenship. It still does. In fact, the court has affirmed this right for more than 125 years. Trump's executive order is considered by many legal experts to be in direct violation of both the Constitution and federal statutes. One court of appeals has already ruled against the administration on these grounds. But until the Supreme Court decides the core question, can the president limit birthright citizenship through executive order? the issue will remain legally unsettled. The path ahead in the courts. From here, several things could happen. Appeals process. The administration could try to challenge the Barbara injunction or other ongoing cases, pushing them back toward the Supreme Court. Supreme Court review. If the court agrees to hear the constitutional question, there will be another round of written briefs, oral arguments, and potentially a landmark decision. Long timeline. It could take years before a final ruling is reached, meaning the legal protections in place now could remain for the foreseeable future. Cody Wofsy, deputy director of the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project, summed up their position. Birthright citizenship isn't just a legal doctrine, it's central to who we are as a nation. The human side of the story. For families caught in the middle, this battle isn't just about court rulings and legal strategies, it's about their children's future. Many parents feared they might have to move to another state, give birth abroad, or face uncertainty about their baby's legal status. The injunction has eased that fear, but the anxiety remains until the fight is over. Advocates argue that this isn't simply a policy debate, it's a question of belonging, equality, and America's identity. As one demonstrator's sign outside the Supreme Court put it, citizenship is a birthright. Why this case matters. Beyond citizenship, the outcome of this legal battle could set precedents far beyond immigration and citizenship. The Supreme Court's narrowing of universal injunctions already changes how courts can block federal policies. Future legal fights, on topics from climate change to voting rights, may now rely more heavily on class action lawsuits or state-level protections. For the Trump administration, the CASA decision was a partial procedural win. But for now, when it comes to birthright citizenship, the core constitutional protection remains untouched. The legal fight over birthright citizenship is far from over, and its outcome could shape America's legal and cultural landscape for decades. Staying informed is the first step in understanding where this battle might lead. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives into important legal and political issues, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. And let me know in the comments, do you think the Supreme Court will ultimately uphold birthright citizenship as it stands today?